When I got to the point in my life where I felt like I needed to be gone, I couldn't find any other way for the pain to stop than for me to end it all. There was some crucial information that I wasn't privy to. There was something that I don't know if it would have helped me at the time. I don't know whether it would have made me second guess my desire to end it all. I know that it has altered my thinking lately, especially struggling with, you know, thoughts of suicide. But that is the fact that the pain of suicide does not go away with your death, with your suicide. The pain of suicide, it lives on in everybody who knows and loves you. A mate of mine took his own life. It's a scar that will never heal. And we're going to talk about that and more on STP today. Welcome to Shattered the Podcast. STP is the story of my journey from the depths of mental illness to a place where I could live again. Alrighty, so this is a big one for me. It is an attempt to prevent suicide in a way that I've not heard it done before. So suicide has affected me three different ways. Good mate, a fella that I mentored, a fella that I knew very, very well. We lost contact. He killed himself. One of my daughters attempted to take her own life in desperation and grief. And I tried to take my own life. So I understand the impact on each person. Take your own life, it's all over. You get to walk away. Somebody you love tries to take their own life, but they survive. There's still hope. There's still things that we can do. And I also understand the desperate hopelessness of somebody that feels like they need to take their own life. How desperately lonely and painful your heart, your mind, your soul is at that time. But for my mate that took his own life, his pain might be over. Let's just leave afterlife out of it for just this moment. The pain of his passing has lived on. The grief of his passing will not ever go away. There are so many questions that I have about his suicide. Why did he feel like he was alone? Why didn't he feel like he could reach out to me? As a person living with mental illness who's survived his own suicide attempt, what was it in this guy's makeup that made it so difficult to be able to reach out to me and just say, hey, I'm struggling? Because I would have done anything. Like, this guy lived in far north Queensland. If you're in America, it's like Florida to Rhode Island. It's a hike. It's a distance. But I would have been there for him. If he had told me I'm at the point where I'm going to take my own life, I'd have been up there as quick as I could. Why didn't he reach out to me? And then the last question that I have is when did I last talk to him? But even more importantly, when did I last think about him? And I feel so much guilt about that. How could I not know? Like, I'm not a clinician, but I've lived through this whole suicide experience. I'm kind of an expert on it. How could I miss the signs? How could I not know that he was hurting that much? So that's the guilt. The guilt of, why didn't I do more? Why wasn't I a better friend? Then there's the anger. This guy had so much potential. He wasn't a super genius. He wasn't like super extraordinary. He was just a bloke. But he was going to meet the girl of his dreams. He was going to get married. He was going to have a life. And those extraordinary things that he could have done, they're all gone. That's the anger. Why would he do this? Now I understand the pain, but let's go even more personal. When one of my daughters tried to take her own life, came out of nowhere. It was a bolt out of the blue. Of all our kids, we thought she was the most well adjusted, the best coping, the most mentally healthy. So when we first found her in the morning unconscious, covered in vomit and urine and feces, we assumed that it was another medical issue. Not for 1 second did we contemplate that this was a suicide attempt. The ambos showed up and they said, "We think this is a suicide attempt." I said, I don't see. I disagreed with them. I said, no, there's no chance that this was suicide. Then later on that day, I did a search in her room, and at the right at the bottom of her garbage bin, I found all these pill packets with the pills popped out, and it had been done very neatly, and had been hidden right at the bottom of her basket. And then I tore her room apart, realized that this was a suicide attempt. I needed to understand. And I found a diary. And what I read in that diary broke my heart. It was a story of a little girl that was so crushed in her self image, so hopeless, that I can understand why she went. Now, the pain of the attempt, finding her like that, having to do all the psychological stuff, having to deal with as a parent, having to work with my wife to try and, you know, not exist in guilt and anger and blame. But there was always hope because she hadn't succeeded. So for my wife, it was particularly devastating. I mean, it was for both of us. I mean, you have no idea how much it hurts. And if you do know, please, you have my condolences because I know how hard it is. But for me, it wasn't as bad. If it had been final, if she had have succeeded, I don't know that I could have come back from that. I really don't know. Um, I probably would have. I don't know. I've not been there, so I can't tell you. But because she didn't succeed, I was very optimistic through the whole thing. So, okay, now we know that there's a problem, we can fix it. So, even though there's all the guilt and the shame and the anger and the frustration and the pain and the recuperation and the medical bills, doesn't matter because we now know that there's a problem. We now know that we have to do something. What this has made us do is be more proactive with all of our children, sitting them down and just saying, we need to know if you aren't happy. Not because we want to fix it, not because we're worried about you, but we just want to know. We just need you to tell us. And if you ever get to the point where you're thinking that suicide is an option, please, 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 please talk to us. No judgment. I guess my final message is for the people that are kind of struggling in this arena at the moment. The person that is contemplating taking their own life is not in their right mind. They're not crazy. They're not mental. They're not anything like that. They're just, it is impossible for them to think clearly. But they need to know that a suicide is not the end of their pain. Their pain lives on. And it can be generational. I mentioned earlier, a kid in a school the other day was talking about his grandfather or great-grandfather who came back from World War II, took his own life. Now, this is a kid that's never met that grandfather, but he was still visibly upset about it. The trauma of that suicide will resonate and it will have ripples. And it won't stop the pain. It will just transfer it. It'll just pass it on to the people that are left behind. I think that this message needs to get out there. If more people in that hopeless state understood that their absence would be far greater than any pain that they could cause while they're with you. Because at least if they're there, there is a chance. A chance. This has been a tough one. Hey, I've appreciated all the people that have reached out with their comments. If you would like to, if you want me to speak about something particularly, please let me know in the comments. Got a lot of people upset at my last lot of promos. They thought it was clickbait. That is never my intention. All I want to do is just get the message out as quickly and clearly as I can. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, share, drop us a comment. Appreciate you, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye for now. Hey, thanks for joining us on Shattered the Podcast. I'm Mark. Special thanks to my producer, Meredith Brosnan, and also to Torian, Kevin, and Lorraine. And we can't forget the amazing band Adelaide, who let us use their song as our theme. For more information, check us out on all your socials, STP Shattered the Podcast.